You have been making yourself smaller and you know it. Not dramatically. Not in one big moment you can point to. It has been gradual. The way water shapes stone. You stopped wearing certain things. You stopped saying certain things in certain company. You started editing yourself before you even opened your mouth. Running a quick internal check. Is this too much? Is this too loud? Will this come across as desperate or unhinged? Or too intense? You started softening your laugh in ways you used to never think about. You stopped finishing stories when you sensed the energy in the room shift. You archived pieces of yourself. Not forever, just for now. Just until things settle. Just until he comes back. Just until you feel safer. But here is the thing, nobody tells you about the version of yourself you archived. She is not patiently waiting in a box somewhere. She is restless. She is pushing at the walls. And the energy it takes to keep her contained is the same energy that used to light up every room you walked into. This week, with Venus moving into Leo, that contained version of yourself is not asking to be let out anymore. She is demanding it. And if you have felt an unexplainable irritability, a low-grade frustration with everything and nothing, a sense of being almost ready to say something you have been holding back for a long time, that is not anxiety. That is her, knocking. If you are the divine feminine in a twin flame connection and you feel like you have been living at half volume, leave a like and subscribe. Drop. I am not too much in the comments to anchor this frequency. Today we are talking about what you have been doing to yourself during the separation. Not what he has done to you. What you have done to you. Because Venus into Leo will not let that continue. And if you understand what is actually happening, you will stop fighting the fire and start letting it work. You came here for a reason that goes beyond what your conscious mind chose. Before the separation, before the silence, before the back and forth that has left you perpetually half present in your own life, he saw something in you, not the carefully managed version, not the version that checks herself before speaking, the version that existed before you learned to contain your own light out of fear of being too much. He fell in love with that version. He is still in love with that version. The problem is that version increasingly does not show up anymore, and you are the only one who can bring her back. There is something about the way a woman carries herself before she has been disappointed enough times to start holding back. There is a quality to her presence that is not about youth or looks or confidence in the conventional sense. It is about full inhabitation. She is all the way in her own body, all the way present to her own thoughts before she says them, not performing being fine, not monitoring how she is landing. Just alive in the specific way that only happens when you are not spending energy managing your own light. That is what he saw. And the reason it stopped him, the reason it opened something in him that he had not known was closed, was not luck or chemistry or timing. It was contact. His deepest self making contact with a woman who had not yet been convinced that her deepest self was too much to show. The separation started convincing you otherwise. And here is what Venus moving into Leo is asking of you right now, bluntly, directly. Stop letting the separation do that to you. Not because he deserves your brightness, not because it will bring him back, but because you deserve to be all the way inside your own life and the archive you have been building of the parts of yourself that feel too big, too loud, too real. That archive has a cost. It costs you every single day. But first you have to understand why you put her away. Something I want you to sit with before we go any further. If you have been trying to understand the deeper mechanics of your specific connection, where you are in the journey, what his energy is actually doing right now, and what the universe is currently orchestrating for you, a twin flame union personal reading is available, and it is for you specifically. Not a general reading, not a template with your name on it. Your birth chart is the foundation, your soul contract, what is currently active in his energy field, the karmic patterns still running between you, the divine timing of your next phase. Delivered as an audio reading straight to your inbox with a written report you can return to. You can order yours right now and it will be delivered within 48 hours. The link is in the description below. Now, back to why you put her away. Here is what happened, and it happened so slowly you may not have even noticed it was a process. When the distance came, when the silence started, when the push and pull replaced what used to feel like certainty, you began an internal audit. You asked yourself, consciously or unconsciously, what about me made him pull back? And you started editing. Maybe you concluded you were too emotional, so you became more measured, more composed. You stopped letting your feeling land on your face the way it used to. You learned to speak from behind a pane of glass, clear enough to be understood, contained enough to feel safe. You told yourself this was growth, that you were learning emotional regulation. And some of it was, but some of it was amputation dressed up as evolution. Maybe you concluded you were too available, so you became less available. You started letting messages sit longer than felt natural. You monitored your own enthusiasm like you were its supervisor. You stopped reaching out when every cell in your body wanted to reach out, and you called this detachment when it was actually performance. Maybe you concluded you were too much in some specific way that was unique to the wound this connection activated. Too intense, too perceptive, too certain about what you both were. So you started second-guessing your perceptions out loud, discrediting your own knowing before anyone else could, making yourself smaller in the exact places you had once been most alive. In Jungian psychology, what you were archiving has a name. It is called the self, the integrated core that includes everything, including the parts that feel dangerous to show, the parts that are powerful enough to change your room, the parts that do not fit neatly into the role of woman who is managing her feelings appropriately. The self is not a concept. It is experienced as a felt aliveness, a quality of presence. When you are in contact with it, other people feel it. They are drawn to it without knowing why. It has nothing to do with beauty or strategy or saying the right thing. It is purely energetic. It is you being fully inhabited. But the self also includes what Jung called the shadow, the parts of ourselves we have decided are unacceptable, the qualities we have learned to hide because some earlier experience told us they were dangerous to show. And the twin flame journey, with its unique capacity for activating our oldest wounds, has a way of driving enormous amounts of material into shadow. Not just the grief, not just the anger, but the parts of you that were most alive. The fire, the certainty, the radiance, the quality of presence that requires nothing from anyone else to exist. When you start archiving those parts, when you start associating your own brightness with the pain that followed the last time you showed it fully, you do not just lose access to those qualities. In the connection, you lose access to them everywhere. In your work, in your other relationships, in the way you walk into a room, in the quality of your own inner life. You become smaller not just for him but for yourself, and the grief of that smallness is something many divine feminines are carrying right now, that they are not even naming as grief. It deserves to be named. He fell in love with a woman who was fully present to herself. You owe it to that woman to retrieve her. Carl Jung wrote about the Anima, the interior feminine principle that lives in every man. It is the part of the masculine psyche that seeks wholeness, that is drawn toward feeling, toward depth, toward the things the masculine structure of the conscious mind tends to wall off. The Anima is not a fantasy. It is not an idealization. It is a genuine interior force, and it projects. What this means in the context of a twin flame connection is precise. He did not fall in love with a projection, but his recognition of you was amplified by the way you carried the qualities his own interior self was seeking, not because you were performing them, because they were genuinely yours. Your emotional range, your perceptiveness, your capacity to feel things fully without flinching, those are not weaknesses. They are the exact qualities that activated the deepest layer of his recognition. Jung described the Anima as having stages. At its lowest expression, it is pure instinctual draw, physical attraction without depth. At its highest expression, it becomes what he called Sophia, wisdom, the pull toward a woman who carries something the masculine psyche needs to integrate in order to become whole. What he felt with you was not the lowest level. It was much higher. It was the recognition of a woman who carried the qualities his own interior life needed most. And that kind of recognition does not fade. It does not get replaced. Other women will not produce it, which is why, even when he is actively trying to move on, he cannot fully close the door. When you archive those qualities to survive the separation, something shifts in the energetic cord between you that even he registers. He may not know what it is. He may experience it as a vague absence he cannot name, a sense that something is slightly off in himself that he cannot source. The restlessness that makes him reach for his phone at 11 in the evening and then put it down. The dream about you that leaves him unsettled in a way he does not want to examine. He is not missing the managed version of you. He does not even have access to the managed version of you, not really. What he is missing at a level beneath his conscious awareness is the quality of presence you had before you started editing it. Individuation is Jung's word for the process of becoming fully yourself. Not the self that has been shaped by survival strategies. Not the self that learned to be palatable. The self with a capital S, the one that includes everything, including the fire you have been sitting on. The individuation process is uncomfortable. It is designed to be. The psyche does not let go of its compensatory structures without a fight. The managed self does not step aside gracefully. It argues. It offers reasons. It reminds you of every time your full self was too much. It points to the separation as evidence. The transit disagrees, and transits do not argue. The twin flame journey, when it is working the way it is designed to work, is one of the most efficient individuation processes available to a human being, because the pain of the separation does not let you stay comfortable in the parts of yourself you have not yet integrated. It keeps agitating. It keeps producing the friction that cracks the container of the managed self open. This is what you are in right now, the cracking open. There is something specific about the way the divine feminine edits herself during separation that is worth naming directly. She does not do it because she is weak. She does it because she is capable. She is perceptive enough to sense the exact places where her full presence has felt like too much for him. And she, being the one who carries more of the relational consciousness in this dynamic, adapts. She turns herself down, not to manipulate, not strategically, purely as an act of unconscious protection. I will be less so he can be more. The tragedy is that this protection instinct is not entirely wrong. His system does activate when her brightness is fully present. He does have a moment of contraction, but that contraction is not a signal that she is too much. It is a signal that he is not yet integrated enough to hold the full frequency of what she carries. The contraction is his edge, his growing point, and by dimming herself to manage his edge, she removes the exact pressure that his growth requires. She's protecting him from his own evolution. You may have been doing this for so long you have stopped noticing it as a choice. It has become the air you breathe, the default setting. A woman who was once unmissable in a room has become careful, considered, edited, and she has an entire internal narrative to justify it. A narrative built from the real pain of the real times her full self showed up and was met with withdrawal. The narrative is not wrong about the past. It is just wrong about what to do now. There is a workbook I want to bring up here because it is exactly for this moment. Not the moment when everything is figured out. The moment when you are in the middle of it and you genuinely cannot tell if you are making progress or just going in circles. The Twin Flame Journey Tracker and Progress Workbook is 39 pages, and its specific function is to make your own movement visible to you. Because when you are inside the journey, when the fog is thick, you cannot see what you are actually doing. What has shifted, what you have released, what version of yourself is quietly emerging. The workbook tracks that. An 8-stage journey map so you know where you are. A synchronicity log so you stop losing the evidence. Weekly reflections that surface patterns you would miss in real time. Monthly reviews that let you see your transformation in writing, rather than trying to hold it all in your head. If you have been doing the work and genuinely cannot tell whether it is working, the link is in the description. It is the difference between feeling lost inside the process and being able to see the process you are actually inside. Now back to the protection instinct, because this is important. When you make yourself smaller to protect him from your brightness, you are not actually protecting him. You are protecting the version of the dynamic that feels like the only one possible right now. The one where he gets to be comfortable and you get to be careful. And that version of the dynamic is the version that keeps the separation exactly where it is. Venus moving into Leo is a cosmological argument against that arrangement. Leo energy does not dim. It does not check itself before speaking. It does not run an internal audit on whether it is too much. It does not perform regulation. It inhabits, fully, without apology. And Venus in Leo is specifically the energy of love that refuses to be invisible, desire that will not be managed into a corner, worth that insists on being witnessed. This is not a transit that is asking you to become something you are not. It is a transit that is creating the conditions in which what you have been suppressing can no longer stay suppressed, because the energetic cost of containment has finally exceeded the perceived cost of visibility. What you have been protecting him from is in fact what he needs most. Here is what happens in a twin flame dynamic when the divine feminine stops contracting and starts inhabiting herself fully again. He feels it before he understands it. This is not metaphor. In a connection with this level of soul entrainment, where your nervous systems have been in ongoing communication regardless of physical contact, where the energetic cord between you is as real as any biological tether, a shift in your energetic baseline registers in him as a shift in his own interior state. He does not know why he suddenly feels the urge to send something. He does not know why he looks at his phone at 2 in the afternoon with a specific feeling that has no story attached to it. He does not know why the dream came back. What he is responding to is the frequency of the version of you he fell in love with coming back online. There is also something happening in him under this transit that is worth naming. Venus moving through Leo will create pressure in the masculine around desire. Not emotional desire, not the longing he manages with logic. Physical, energetic, undeniable desire. The kind that starts in the body before the mind has a chance to moderate it. Leo rules the heart, and Venus in Leo is not a soft transit. It is a demanding one. It does not ask the masculine to feel comfortable. It asks him to feel alive. And the only version of aliveness that will satisfy that demand is the version connected to you. This is why the timing matters. What he is about to feel is not something he can redirect. He will try. He is good at redirecting. But Venus in Leo does not redirect. It burns through the redirections and points back toward the original flame, which is you. Specifically, the version of you that has been in the archive. Jungian psychology calls this the transcendent function, the capacity of the psyche to hold opposites in tension until a third thing emerges that could not have been predicted from either pole alone. The two poles here are his suppression and your full expression. In the twin flame context, the third thing is union. But union cannot emerge from a dynamic where one pole has gone quiet. The tension that drives the transcendent function requires both poles to be fully activated. You being fully yourself is not a strategy to get him back. Let me be clear about that. It is not a tactic. If you inhabit yourself fully as a means to an end, the energy is still contracted. What Venus into Leo is asking for is something more fundamental than strategy. It is asking you to inhabit yourself because you are yourself, because your light is yours before it is anyone else's, because the version of you who turned herself down to survive this separation deserves to be retrieved, not because he will feel it, but because she has been waiting. The reunion with that version of yourself is the actual journey, not a step toward union. The union. Because the twin flame path is not primarily about two people coming together, it is about one soul becoming whole. And the wholeness you are reclaiming right now, the fire you are letting back in, the archived pieces of yourself that Venus into Leo is liberating from their containers, that is the completion the journey was always pointed toward. He will feel it. He will respond to it, not necessarily in the way or the timeline your ego is hoping for. but energetically, the version of you who is all the way present, all the way inhabiting her own fire, all the way done apologizing for the brightness he fell in love with in the first place, that version of you changes everything. She already is. You do not need to become her. You need to stop stopping her. If someone asked you to look at your specific chart right now, your specific soul contract, what Venus moving through Leo is activating in your unique blueprint, what the current energy between you and your twin actually holds, that is exactly what the personal reading does. Not in general, for you specifically. Audio delivered to your inbox with a written report within 48 hours. The link is in the description. You already know what it feels like when she is all the way present. You remember it. That quality of walking into a room and not needing to check whether you are too much. That quality of speaking without editing yourself mid-sentence. That quality of laughing all the way instead of monitoring the laugh. That is your actual self. Not the one who learned to hold back. Not the one who learned to check herself. The one who walks into a room and does not need to announce herself because the room already knows she is there. Stop archiving her. She was never the problem. She was always the answer. I will see you in the next one.